We want to go ahead and bring in Ernie Birchmeier. He's with the Michigan Farm Bureau. Our food supply has been hit hard during this pandemic, but as the months go on, it seems like things are getting better. Ernie, how are they?
Well, good morning. It's great to be with you. And yes, our food supply is getting back to normal. Importantly, our farmers never quit farming through this entire COVID pandemic outbreak. From day one, they continue to do what they do on a daily basis, and that's take care of the livestock that they raise, milk the cows that are on the farm and those dairy farms across Michigan. And then, if you remember, it was back in March when all of this happened, and at that time, our farmers were ready to go to the fields, put crops in the ground, and the growing season is coming to a close, and they're now getting ready to start harvesting those crops. And certainly, we had some supply disruptions along the way, impacts to our processing capacities and capabilities across Michigan, and not so much maybe much in Michigan, but across the rest of the country. That slowed down the availability of some products at the retail grocery store level. But importantly, our farmers have never quit farming throughout this entire pandemic.
How is the weather cooperating for the farmers this year?
We've had a bit of an up and down year weather-wise. Our spring was somewhat normal compared to the last few years, and crops went in the ground in a pretty timely manner. Although our fruit crop was hit and harmed early on due to some late frost, that did cause some problems for the fruit growing region in the state. But from a field crop standpoint, things went in the ground pretty close to normal. Rainfall across the state has been very good in some regions, very limited in others, and the crops that are coming to maturity and getting ready to be harvested indicate where the moisture was appropriate, where it was excessive, and where we did not get enough. Because in those areas where we did not get enough, the crops are not in very good shape.
Ernie, we also have a lot of severe weather this time of the year as the summer comes to an end, as the fall begins. How has the severe weather that we have experienced so far and some of the lasting effects of that, such as flooding, impacted the agricultural industry in the state of Michigan and impacted these crops that are soon to be harvested?
Sure, in some of those areas where we had excessive flooding, those crops were for the most part lost, and that's devastating for the farms in those regions. Fortunately, we do have some safety tools put in place in terms of crop insurance, where they may have taken advantage of that, but it will never make them whole. But in those areas where there's too much water, you take the center part of the state up in the Midland area where the dams broke and there was excessive flooding, from there out through Aranet County and the Standage region, those crops were pretty much totally destroyed, and that's a complete loss for those farms. So the crops can only withstand so much water before they are going to perish, and unfortunately that was the case in some areas. Along with that, if they don't get enough, it's equally as devastating because there's not enough moisture there to bring those crops to maturity and allow them to fill out the ears of corn or the pods of soybeans or the dry beans, whichever the case may be. If they don't get enough moisture, that's a problem as well. We're very reliant on Mother Nature to do her thing so that our farmers can do their thing on the farms every day.
Farming is such a hard industry, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Tell me, it is also changing, though. How is technology helping the farmer here in Michigan?
Sure, appreciate that question. And it is important to point out that, less than 1% of our population is involved in actually growing the food that we feed our consumers here in Michigan, across the country, and really throughout the world, on a daily basis. So it is a small percentage of our population that actually involves themselves every day growing the food. But technology is a very important part of what we do. I remember growing up on our farm, and I still farm today, but the tractors were a lot smaller. Certainly was not a whole lot of technology available. And now those tractors and combines and our farm equipment are equipped with computer technology and data management systems that are very technologically advanced, that help the farmer do what they can on a daily basis and help to micromanage the farm, if you will, because in many instances we can measure down to the square foot in the field to determine what the needs of those crops are, and even when we're harvesting, what the yields are in a particular area of the field. So that technology is very important. Robotic technology has come into play, especially on a number of our dairy farms across the state. Several of them, or many of them, have robotic milkers in them, so that helps. And if they don't have robotic milkers, they're equipped with technology that allows them to keep track of the amount of milk that's being produced on a daily basis by a particular cow, how much she is consuming on a daily basis, what her nutritional and medical needs are on the farm. So that technology is very critical as we continue to manage our farms, especially in a tight economic environment.
Ernie Birchmeier with us with the Michigan Farm Bureau. It's just amazing how technology can help all facets of our world. I have to, what do you think is going to be the future of farming? We're even seeing now where they have, they're testing autonomous trucks. Could that be something with tractors on the farm? What do you think the future is going to be?
Sure. Technology is constantly changing, and our farmers are finding ways to adapt and utilize it, albeit that technology does come with a cost. So we have to make sure that it's economically affordable on those farm operations. Where do I see we're headed? I think technology is going to come into play even more, especially in the food processing area. Prior to COVID-19, 50% of the meals were consumed outside of the household. We had to go through a quick change in terms of where food was processed and where it was distributed, to where now 80% of the meals are being consumed inside the household. With that comes changes in our processing. We were a just-in-time food distribution and processing system prior to COVID-19, and maybe some of that will change. So potentially we'll see some structural changes, and that will come with technology changes as well, whether it's in food processing or additional food safety enhancements and measures that can be taken. But at the same time, we will continue to see advancements at the farm level for our farmers to take advantage of, if they're economically feasible and affordable for our farmers across the state.
Ernie, one thing that we have learned during this crisis, companies have had to change and adapt, but they've also learned new skills, or there's been some positive change that has come out of COVID-19. Do you see any changes that had to happen because of the coronavirus that will stick around post-pandemic?
I think one of the real challenges we continue to face in agriculture is a labor shortage. We need to continue to find capable labor on our farm operations, especially when it comes to harvesting fruits and vegetables across the state. Michigan is second in diversity in terms of the number of commodities that we produce here in our beautiful state, second only to California. We do grow a lot of fruits and vegetables, and those, in many cases, those have to be hand harvested. So labor will continue to be an issue. If potentially we will see some technological changes that allow for a better way, if you will, to harvest some of those fruits and vegetables. They're delicate commodities when they need to be harvested. That's why they are hand harvested in many cases and hand packed, so that we're not damaging that perishable commodity. So advancements there would definitely help, and certainly COVID may have brought about additional changes there.
Ernie Birchmeier with us from the Michigan Farm Bureau, joining us on the Oakland County MegaCast. So Ernie, on that note, a lot of different businesses and other sectors of the economy are just looking to fill these positions with people that are capable of doing them, and training after the fact, and putting more emphasis on training and more investment into training new people that maybe are just entering those industries. Is that the same case in the farming and agricultural industry in the state of Michigan, or are there specific skill sets that are being looked for more than others?
Again, a great question. And, we continue to work with our partners at Michigan State University, who have a 2-year ag tech program that provides hands-on training for a wide variety of positions in agriculture across the state. MSU has then went out and partnered with community colleges across the state to work with them and collaborate with them in terms of providing that training that is needed. I think skill sets within our industry are not much different than they are in any other industry. Certainly the ability and the desire to work hard on a daily basis, the ability to adapt and learn and to change as the industries change, the willingness to dive into a job and give it 110%. Our industry is labor intensive, and we rely on those skill sets every day. And if someone is interested in a career in agriculture, and coincidentally, 22% of all the jobs in Michigan, about 900,000 jobs, are in one way or another tied to agriculture. And if someone is willing to learn, willing to work hard, willing to be committed to that career and that job, they certainly can find a job within our industry, and will find one with welcome arms, because it is important that we continue to bring in qualified, well-trained people that are willing to invest in their career.
Ernie, I'd be interested to know, urban farming is really taking off right now. Is that helping spark interest in farming?
Well, I think anytime people can have an understanding of where their food comes from, we will all be better off in terms of consumers, and citizens in the state of Michigan. And if folks within the urban centers want to take advantage or have the ability to plant and grow and harvest and consume of some of their own food, I think that creates a greater understanding and awareness again of our food industry. So I think that does help. We are very blessed in Michigan to have a wide variety of different types of farm operations. As I've already mentioned, we produce over 300 different commodities. That's different types of crops and fruits and vegetables and livestock here in Michigan, from a wide variety of types of farm operations. We have small farm operations, medium-sized farm operations, and large operations. And I think anyone that has an opportunity to grow and produce food, that is great for all. It's great for themselves, great for consumers, and great for agricultural awareness.
Ernie Birchmeier with us on from the Michigan Farm Bureau. Just a few more minutes with you here on the Oakland County MegaCast. The future, let's look into the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. What does agriculture look like here in the state of Michigan? What is doing really well, and what issues still need to be addressed?
Well, I think we're entering an exciting time in terms of agriculture here in Michigan. Fall harvest time is always a wonderful time, and if the weather cooperates, it's a great time, and quite frankly, my favorite time of the year. There's nothing better than being out in the farm fields when the trees are turning around you and they're golden yellow and red, and the fall colors are beautiful, while the combines are harvesting around you, and the farmers are putting crops in the bin and realizing the value of the hard work that they've put in. Just as important is our fall farm market season, which is upon us. And in Southeast Michigan, you've got plenty of those to take advantage of, as we do across the state. And I always encourage people to go out and take advantage of those fall farm markets, because they're a great way to meet a farmer, to visit with them, to purchase some homegrown produce from the farm that produced it, take it home, and then share that with your family. So I think those are great opportunities. So fall harvest season is an exciting time. Along with that, we can't help but to talk about the fact that there's an election coming up here in November. That's in front of us on a constant basis, whether it's in normal media channels or social media channels or wherever you get your information from. That is important. The outcome of that is important to agriculture. And our farmers across the state take an active role in making sure that Friends of Agriculture get elected. Our county farm bureaus across Michigan sat down even during the pandemic. Most of them met virtually to talk about which candidates are best for agriculture and best for our industry, and would help to lead our industry forward through their representation, whether that be here in Michigan or in Washington, D.C. So fall in the election process and the election season is important to our industry as well.
Because
keeping an eye on international trade and international markets is critically important as well. 96% of the world's population lives outside of this country. So we need to make sure that we are engaged in that process when trade agreements are being talked about and discussed, and making sure that our industry is treated fairly.
Yeah, and can you go a little deeper into the pipeline from DC to the farms and the impact it has on the industry?
Sure. The pandemic has been very challenging for agriculture because as we went through those market disruptions, the impact, the economic impact to agriculture was dramatic, and we saw farm prices decline. In some cases by 50%. That's going to have a real impact on the overall level of profitability for agriculture. We appreciate the fact that the administration realized that our industry was challenged and stepped up with some financial assistance. That will in no means make any farmer whole, but it is important that whoever is in that elected position, that they understand that agriculture is an important part of the backbone of the economy of the United States, and our farmers from time to time need some assistance and help as well. And our farmers have appreciated what President Trump has done, and appreciate the fact that Sonny Perdue has been here in the state of Michigan, the Secretary of Agriculture, several times to sit down and talk with our farmers about what is needed. We may not always agree on the politics or the political side of what's going on across our country, and quite frankly, that's what makes our country great. But if we can continue to communicate about what the issues are, what the challenges are, and the best way to solve them, we will work through those challenges.
Ernie Birchmeier, Michigan Farm Bureau, one thing during the pandemic, it definitely highlighted the importance of the farms here, not only in the state of Michigan, but across the country as well, and all that you do and all the farmers do for our community to get the food on the table. Anything left that you want to touch on just before we let you go?
Well, I appreciate you bringing up that point because at no time in our lives have we ever walked into a grocery store and saw empty shelves, at least not where I'm at, and at least not where most of the consumers are here in the state of Michigan or across the country. And in March and April, when the pandemic was taking hold, and people were panic buying, if you will, as we went through those disruptions, as people shifted from buying 50% of their meals outside of the household to consuming virtually all of them inside, they had to go to the grocery store, and in some cases those shelves were empty, and they did realize the value of where their food comes from, how it gets there, hopefully, and then the importance of the farmer. We are very, very fortunate, as I state many times in this country, to have the safest, most affordable, and abundant food supply of virtually anywhere in the world. But it doesn't happen if our farmers don't farm, if our processors can't get it processed, and then if the distribution and retail networks don't all work hand in hand. We certainly have realized some things through this pandemic. We learn something every day, and if we don't, we're missing out on an opportunity. But I think most importantly, many people realize the value of that farmer that's out there doing what they do on a daily basis to provide that great food supply to our consumers, of which we value them so very much as well.
We definitely value them, and we value you. Ernie Birchmeier with us from the Michigan Farm Bureau. We appreciate your time this morning on the Oakland County Megacast and bringing us up to date with everything that is happening on our farms and with our food supply right now.